Chapter 5:12. Hearing Magistrate Lu mercilessly say that she's inferior to Mayan, Shi Lanling's face is filled with malevolent anger. Lu Sei's expression was still indifferent. Her cold gaze looked towards Magistrate Lu, and the corners of her mouth lifted, revealing a terrifying smile. Is that so? The drafts refined by the Enchantress are really better than elixirs? Yes, yes. This subordinate dares to guarantee it with my life. When Magistrate Lu hears Lu Sei say that, he thinks that she's been moved by his words, and promptly says, the drafts that Miss June refines, sell much better than Shi Xianzi's elixirs in the Ghost City. Her medical skills are also acknowledged to be very good. If it's her, she will definitely be able to save the Ghost King. As soon as Magistrate Lu finished speaking, he was suddenly grabbed by the neck. Then, a cloud of black mist enveloped his entire face. A mournful howl came out from Magistrate Lu's mouth, and his face turned blue and purple at a speed visible to the naked eye. His skin was also covered with potholes. Lu Sei swung her hand, and threw Magistrate Lu, who had already fainted, onto the ground. He sneered, if this king says that only pills can treat the Ghost King, then only pills can treat the Ghost King. Who do you think you are to dare to make irresponsible remarks in front of this prince? Since you want to use your life as a guarantee, this king will fulfill your wish. Shi Lanling was originally worried that Lu Sei would really believe that June Mayan was stronger than her, but when she sees this scene, she immediately laughs heartily. June Mayan, did you hear that? If you want to save the Ghost Lord, you can only use alchemy. Even if you can refine godly drafts, drafts are only drafts in the end, how can they compare to elixirs? Her heavily made-up face was filled with unbridled pride and hatred. It's as if he can already see Mu Yan's miserable appearance of the Qi Gu sucking away her flesh and blood, dying without a whole corpse. Dr. Song struggled free from the despair of death and was ecstatic that he had survived the terrifying Gu worm. But Lu Sei and Shi Lanling's shamelessness was like a stick to his head, making him so angry that his whole body trembled. These scum, they didn't even look for a doctor to treat the Ghost Lord. What they wanted was for all the doctors to be eaten by the Gu. I'll compete with you. I'll compete with you again. Dr. Song doesn't care about his weakness from losing too much blood. He shouts loudly while tugging at Mu Yan's sleeves. Lowering his voice, he says, little girl, quickly leave this place. I just realized that you're not afraid of the poison smog. I'll help you hold them back, you leave quickly. Shi Lanling sneered and looked at Dr. Song with disdain, just look at your half-dead appearance. What right do you have to compare with me? Without the Qi Gu in your body, you can't even condense your Dan, so what right do you have to compare with me? Then let this old man compete with you. No, I'll compete with you. Shi Lanling, Lu Sei, do you really think that us doctors are easy to bully? Even if it's eaten up by the Qi Gu, so what? This old man will compete with you. Dr. Du, Dr. Jiang, Dr. Li. Each and every one of them, doctors of virtue and prestige, stand in front of Mayan. Just now, they were still filled with fear of death and Gu worms. But at this moment, they were all filled with righteous indignation, filled with the courage to face death calmly. It wasn't that he wasn't afraid of death, it wasn't that he didn't want to live. But they know that today, the Ghost Wind Valley won't let any one of them off. And these old guys, if they die, then they die. Chapter 5:13. Today, if they all die here, Yinwu Continent's medical science will fall back by at least 30 years. And the cause of all this is their greed for the secret method of pill condensation. But at this very moment, Mayan, who has taken out the Gu with her bare hands, lets them see hope. Such a little girl who's not even 20 years old, but has such godly medical skills. She can even refine drafts that can bring the dead back to life. Such a rare seedling, a spark that can raise Yinwu continent's medical skills by a whole realm. How could they allow her to extinguish it? So, at this moment, all the doctors who were once greedy for life and afraid of death stand up. Standing in front of Mayan. Even Dr. Wang, who once ridiculed Mayan, stands in front of Mayan with trembling legs. They spread open their not-so-strong arms, protecting Mayan behind them like an eagle protecting a chick. Mayan stares at this scene in a daze, and she can't help but reach out and press her chest. At the place where her heart should be filled with hatred and be sealed in ice. At this moment, she doesn't know why, but there's a surge of warmth. This warmth washes through every cell in her body, making her feel sour and ashamed, but also indescribably moved. Mayan takes a deep breath and pushes aside the doctors in front of her. She smiles faintly at Shi Lanling and Lu Sei. "All right, I'll compete with you in alchemy." "Little girl, don't be impulsive." "That's right, that's Shi Lanling, even old Song couldn't beat her, how could you be her opponent?" "Dr. June, you're good at drafts and medical skills, there's no need to compete with that despicable woman in alchemy. She's already been immersed in alchemy for nearly 10 years, and you're not even 20 yet, how could you possibly be her opponent?" The doctors surrounding Mayan are all anxious, each and every one of them earnestly advising her. "Little girl, don't try to be brave. It's better for us old farts to risk our lives than for a little girl like you to die. You'd better run away quickly." Mayan looks at the faces anxiously scolding her. Although they're speaking harsh words, they're full of worry for her. Her brows slightly curve, revealing a respectful smile, and she slowly bows, "Thank you seniors for your care. However, this competition belongs to me and Shi Lanling, so I ask the seniors to believe me. I will win." Everyone was taken aback. It wasn't because when the girl in front of him smiled, it was as dazzling as the sun, more beautiful than 100 flowers blooming. It's because her smile is brimming with self-confidence and unruliness, as if Lu Sei, Qi Gu, Shi Lanling, in her eyes, they're nothing more than insignificant ants. Shi Lanling doesn't see Mayan's expression. Hearing her words, she immediately looks contemptuous. "June Mayan, why are you still talking nonsense, still not coming over to take the Qi Gu and compete with me? I can't wait to see the appearance of you being gnawed into a dried corpse by the Qi Gu after you lose to me." Ha ha ha. Mayan brushes her clothes and slowly turns around. His peach blossom eyes were sparkling and bottomless, but there was not a trace of panic in them. Her gaze sweeps over Lu Sei and Shi Lanling, only then does she carelessly say, "There's no need to take the Qi Gu, if you want to compete in alchemy, then let's directly start." Hearing this, Shi Lanling and Lu Sei were both startled. Chapter 5:14. Shi Lanling sneers, "Won't take the Qi Gu. Relying on a waste like you, without the help of the Qi Gu, can you refine an elixir? Stop dreaming. Or do you think that if you don't take the Qi Gu, even if you lose, you can still escape this disaster? Hee, June Mayan, you're too naive. I advise you to take the Gu immediately, maybe you'll still have the qualifications to compete with me, otherwise, you'll only die more unsightly." Saying that, she waves her hand. Immediately, a ghost envoy carries a small black goblet, handing it over to Mayan. Mayan has a smile that isn't a smile, not moving. "I said no need, so no need. Ghost King Lu only asked us to refine elixirs, he didn't say that we must take the Qi Gu to refine elixirs. That's not up to you." Shi Lanling gnashes her teeth, "I don't care what kind of trick you're planning, but today, you have to eat this Gu, even if you don't want to eat it, you still have to eat it. Come, stuff the Qi Gu into her mouth, I want to see how she can still be arrogant." Hearing that, the ghost envoy carrying the small goblet deftly grabs the little black bug inside. She also doesn't know what kind of special treatment he's done to it. When the goo touches his skin, it unexpectedly doesn't directly burrow inside, but remains quiet, like it's unconscious. That ghost envoy holds the chi-gu, slowly approaching Mayan. As the chi-gu gets closer and closer to Mayan, it suddenly seems to come alive, violently bouncing in the ghost envoy's hand. It's like Mayan's flesh and blood is fiercely attracting it. Lu Sei's eyes brighten. Looking at Mayan, besides hatred, there's also a trace of suspicion. This is the first time she's felt her gu being so excited. Even the mother gu in her body seems to be affected, stirring restlessly inside her body. There's definitely something special in this woman's flesh and blood that's attracting them. Seeing that the pitch-black, frightening gu is about to stick to Mayan's snow-white, sparkling skin, Mayan sneers, her fingertips slightly drawing a line in the air like a wave. In a split second, a silver light flashes, and there seems to be a faint hum of a zither. Then, there's only a piercing sound, and the chi-gu that was still bouncing just a moment ago is cut into two in the blink of an eye. Almost at the same instant that the chi-gu is severed, a blue flame sprays from the gu's body. The gu worm was burned to ashes. Even the ghost envoy's fingers were burnt black, but he only reacted after a long while, letting out a blood-curdling scream. Shi Lanling has been waiting for Mayan's frightened expression after swallowing the chi-gu. Who would have thought that it would be so easily resolved by this woman? Her face instantly twisted, and she roared in a stern voice, "Trash, what are you still standing there for? So many chi-gu, I don't believe she can escape all of them. Hurry up and attack." When the ghost messengers heard the order, they rushed forward like a swarm of bees. Everyone was holding a gu worm in their hands. Mayan chuckles and flips her wrist. In a split second, a simple and lustrous zither with a flowing luster appears in her hand. Her slender hands lightly plucked the strings of the zither. The music of the armored horses resounded throughout the hall. Sound blades shot out at a speed invisible to the naked eye. Mu Yen knows better than anyone that if these gu worms fall to the ground, they will drill everywhere. Even if he was not afraid, the other doctors would definitely suffer. Therefore, swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The sound of the zither turns into blades, and 100 of them shoot out. Chapter 5:15. In the blink of an eye, the ghost envoys who had just fiercely rushed over, each and every one of them clutches their burnt hands and cries out in pain. And the chi-gu that had just frightened everyone, after a short moment, has completely turned into fine powder. The whole audience is deathly still, everyone's eyes are focused on Mayan. The doctors are shocked, ecstatic. The ghost envoys are fearful, aghast. But Shi Lanling and Lu Sei are completely and utterly in disbelief. Especially Lu Sei. That terrifying face of hers is now completely twisted together. Those pair of turbid eyes seem like they're about to fall out of their empty sockets. My chi-gu. Jun Mayan, you slut, you killed my Xian-ji, and now you've even killed all my chi-gu, good, good. They can't let you take the chi-gu, then let me personally feed it to you. As soon as her voice falls, Lu Sei opens her mouth. The next moment, she sees an ugly black-red bug that's several times bigger than the other chi-gu, crawling out of her mouth. Lu Sei grabs that bug, and her figure suddenly turns into an afterimage, heading towards Mayan. This time, Mayan's expression becomes extremely grave. The Tian Mo Chin in her hand stands upright, 5 fingers suddenly vibrating on the strings. The sound of the zither abruptly rises, like a hurricane engulfing the waves, rushing straight to the sky. Lu Sei is almost about to rush in front of Mayan, but she suddenly feels her body colliding with an invisible wall. Her entire body was bounced away. The Shin musician's new second-level skill, divine hands weave the heavens. Through the sound of the zither, it drives the heaven and earth's vitality in the air, forming a protective barrier in a short period of time. exhausting all internal force or spiritual power within the body, lasting for 3 breaths. Lu Se is bounced back by that sound wall, and she continuously retreats 3 steps before she can stand firm. She suddenly looks at Mayan, her eyes filled with bewilderment. June Mayan is a musician. But such a powerful sound wall, is it really something that a musician of the Yenwu continent can achieve? A treacherous light constantly flickers in Lu Se's eyes. As she prepares to attack again, a voice suddenly rings out from outside the main hole. Ghost King Lu Se, what do you want to do to the future Dark Lord's wife? Before her voice falls, she sees Han Ye's figure walking out from the thick black fog. The poison smog wrapped around his body, but it didn't seem to have any effect on him. Han Ye goes straight to Mayan's side, and slightly bows towards her. Miss June, Di June said that he has something to take care of, and let this subordinate protect you first. Mu Yen sees that Han Ye is unscathed. Hearing his words, her heart immediately relaxes. As expected, Di Mingju and the others are safe and sound. Han Ye turns to look at Lu Se, his eyes cold. Ghost King Lu Se, you have offended your superiors, how should you be punished? Lu Se narrowed her eyes. I don't know what you're talking about. Shi Lanling immediately sneered. Apart from the Dark Lord that appeared when the Ghost City was just founded 1,000 years ago, no Dark Lord has appeared since then. You actually said that this woman is the future Dark Lord's wife. What a joke. Ha! Han Ye scoffs. He suddenly took out a black token from his bosom. The token looked very ordinary. There was no radiance or profound chi surrounding it. But as soon as the token appeared, the surrounding ghost envoys seemed to be possessed. Involuntarily, they knelt down and shouted, "Welcome, Supreme Nether." Even Shi Lanling and Lu Se didn't seem to be able to control themselves, and they kneeled down. It's just that before Lu Se's knees completely hit the ground, she suddenly sobers up. Chapter 5:16. How is this possible? Didn't the Dark Lord's decree disappear 1,000 years ago? Han Ye says, now, do you still have any doubts about the existence of the Dark Lord? Lu Se's complexion turns green and white, her eyes are filled with dread, unable to say a word. Han Ye puts away the Dark Lord's decree, and the kneeling ghost envoys and Shi Lanling regain their freedom in a split second. Shi Lanling's eyes brighten all of a sudden, her face full of worship and infatuation. So Di Jun is the founder of the Ghost City, the Dark Lord. No wonder that man is so handsome and powerful. Making her deeply infatuated with him almost the first time she saw him. But as it happens, such a great man actually fancies June Mayan, this slut who has already lost her chastity. Instead, he humiliates and dislikes her in every possible way. No. No. It's not that the Dark Lord dislikes her, but because of June Mayan's interference, the Dark Lord misunderstands her. That's right, it's like this. As long as she gets rid of June Mayan, as long as she lets the Dark Lord clearly see June Mayan's fickle, dirty and ugly nature. She believes that the Dark Lord will definitely like her instead. Shi Lanling suppresses her excitement and stands up, suddenly saying in a loud voice, even if the Dark Lord's existence is proven, it still can't prove that this woman is the future wife of the Dark Lord. Moreover, June Mayan, you just promised me that you would compete with me in alchemy. Don't tell me you're going back on your word now. Mayan was originally still immersed in the fact that Di Mingju is actually the Ghost City's Dark Lord, not coming back to her senses. Hearing Shi Lanling's words at this time, she can't help but curl up the corner of her lips. That's right, I promise to compete with you in alchemy. If I win, I'll be allowed to treat the Ghost Lord's illness, isn't that right? She's answering Shi Lanling's words, but she's looking at Ghost King Lu Se. Lu Se nods, that's right, as long as you beat Shi Xinzi in alchemy and prove that you have the ability to treat the Ghost Lord, I will naturally let you in to treat the Ghost Lord. If Miss June can't refine Dawn, or can't even beat Shirshianzi in alchemy, then it proves that you can't treat the Ghost Lord. Even if you're the Dark Lord's wife, you're still not qualified to treat the Ghost Lord. Mu Yan nodded. All right, then let's start the competition. Shi Lanling glares at her, faintly asking, you really won't take the Qi Gu and want to compete with me in alchemy? But isn't this too boring? Why don't we make a bet? I don't know if you dare or not, Jun Mayan. Mu Yan raises an eyebrow. Oh. What's the bet? Shi Lanling chuckled softly. It's just that this smile doesn't have the slightest bit of immortal elegance and otherworldliness. On the contrary, it's brimming with gloominess and maliciousness. If you lose, then cripple your own cultivation and marry the ghost slave at Ghost King Lu's side. Henceforth, you'll serve the ghost city forever. What do you think? Saying this, she pointed at the person behind Lu Se. Lu Se pointed at a man standing behind her. His clothes were also embroidered with the symbol of the ghost city, but it was different from the other ghost envoys. He's not a ghost envoy of the ghost city, but a ghost slave deployed by Lu Se. Almost everyone in the room had noticed him in some way. Because this ghost slave's appearance was extremely ugly, even comparable to Lu Se's. Chapter 5:17. What nonsense are you talking about? Han Yi suddenly explodes, roaring as he rushes towards the ghost slave and Shi Lanling. But Mayan pulls him back. From their conversation, Mayan knows that Han Yi and the others can't get too involved in the matters of the Yanwu continent. Even more so, they can't casually harm the people of the Yanwu continent, otherwise, they will suffer the backlash of heaven and earth. The doctors on the side also start cursing all at once. Shi Lanling, don't go too far. Competing in alchemy is just competing in alchemy. You actually came up with such an insidious scheme to trick a little girl, you still have no shame. I remember now. A few nights ago, Shi Lanling went to seduce the man naked. He must be Dr. Jun's husband. This person must be jealous of Dr. Jun, that's why he came up with such a despicable method. Little girl, you mustn't agree with him. At this time, Lu Se's gloomy and frightening face finally shows a smile. What? Isn't Miss June very confident in her alchemy level? Now you don't dare to gamble. Since Miss June also thinks that she will lose and doesn't have the guts to gamble, then I think it's better to forget about it. I just didn't expect that the so-called future Dark Lord's wife would turn out to be such a cowardly person, even throwing away the Dark Lord's face. Shi Lanling grits her teeth and sneers. Jun Mayan, who do you think you are? How could you be worthy of that person? Since you don't dare to gamble with me, I think you should obediently leave Dark Lord's side. A waste like you, how could you be worthy of Dark Lord? She hasn't finished speaking when a girl's low, sweet-sounding laughter suddenly resounds in the hall. This laughter makes Shi Lanling and Lu Se, who are in the middle of provoking her, stare blankly. Soon after, they see Mayan raise her head, her beautiful peach blossom eyes rippling with a mocking arc. You guys really have a lot of nonsense. It's just that, after talking for so long, you're only talking about what I should do if I lose. Shi Lanling, what if you lose? What price are you going to pay? Shi Lanling stares blankly at first, then she laughs out loud. I lose. You think I would lose? Jun Mayan, where do you get the confidence to think that I would lose to a waste who has never done alchemy? Mu Yan's expression is unspeakably calm. How do you know that I don't know alchemy? If you really know how to refine pills, you wouldn't have asked me to refine the golden pill of 9 orifices back then. Jun Mayan, do you think that you can bluff me? Do you take me for an idiot? On the side, Han Yi couldn't help but roll his eyes. If you're not an idiot, then who is? Mayan is still calm and unruffled in the midst of chaos. She says unhurriedly, since Shirshianzi is so confident, then let's do it this way. If Shirshinzi loses, I won't ask you to let the Qi Gu suck your flesh and blood dry, to die so unsightly. I just want you to cripple your own meridians and never practice medicine or alchemy. What do you think? Shi Lanling's expression changed. Because Mayan's expression is really too calm, too confident. Could it be that this woman really knew alchemy? No. Absolutely impossible. The dark cloud spirit flower was so precious, and this woman wanted to attract the monarch's attention. If she really knew how to refine pills, why would she let him refine the golden elixir of 9 orifices? Moreover, in the ghost city, June Mayan's expression didn't seem quite right when she mentioned alchemy. She obviously didn't know how to refine pills. Chapter 5:18. The rules of the competition were simple. The Ghost Wind Valley provided 2 sets of exactly the same medicinal herbs. There should be as many types of medicinal herbs as possible, and most of them were valuable and rare medicinal herbs. Using these herbs, Mayan and Shi Lanling can almost refine any kind of elixir that they want to refine. Shi Lanling looks at Mayan contemptuously, and takes the lead to walk in front of the pill furnace. Her hands were slender and beautiful, but at this moment, her nails were dyed bright red with balsam juice. When he picked up the medicinal ingredients beside him and placed them into the pill furnace, his fingernails shone with sparks, as if his hands were stained with blood. It was exceptionally demonic. As the first and second herbs were sent into the furnace, Shi Lanling's movements became faster and faster. She didn't hesitate or pause in choosing the medicinal herbs and how much she put in. Even if those doctors hated her to the core, they couldn't help but marvel at her proficiency in refining pills. Just then, Shi Lanling turned her head to look at Mu Yan. Seeing that she still hadn't started and was staring at her, she couldn't help but sneer. June Mayan, I thought you had some ability to think that you could beat me. So you were planning to secretly learn the pill condensation secret method while I was refining pills. Ha ha ha. Just give up. If the method of condensing pills could be learned so easily, it wouldn't be called a secret technique. Bitch, you're definitely going to lose today. Shi Lanling continues the movements of her hands as she presumptuously taunts Mayan. However, Mu Yan's expression did not change at all. He looked at Shi Lanling curiously. She was indeed curious. Logically speaking, alchemy required spiritual power to condense the pill. This was also the key point that she had figured out after her spirit root had been reconstructed. But in the Yenwu continent, there is no spiritual power. She really wanted to know what method Shi Lanling was going to use to condense the pill. After ridiculing Mayan for a while, Shi Lanling proudly sneers and no longer pays attention to her. Instead, he turned around and continued to concoct pills. As the flame was driven by her, the herbs began to merge. Finally, it was the last and most important step. Core formation. Why is this flame blue and green? Suddenly, the surrounding crowd exclaimed. This was because they discovered that after Shi Lanling injected profound qi into the pill furnace, the flames in the cauldron began to change color. Shi Lanling's skin also became increasingly sparkling and translucent as the pill fire changed color. Seeing this scene, Mu Yan slightly narrowed his eyes, his expression indescribably dark and gloomy. After a short quarter of an hour, a faint medicinal fragrance wafted out of the pill furnace and spread throughout the hall. The doctors, who are already worried about Mayan, are now even more restless. This smell. Could it be a high-grade third-grade medicinal pill? But it doesn't seem right. I once bid for a third-grade elixir in the Ghost City. This medicinal fragrance is even more mellow and enticing than a third-grade elixir. No, it can't be. It's even richer than a third-grade pill. Could it be a fourth-grade pill? Shi Lanling raised her chin and proudly stood up. Soon, a ghost slave came forward, opened the alchemy furnace, and took out 2 jade-white elixirs. Looking at the quality of the 2 pills and the medicinal fragrance they emitted, Yi Zichen's heart skipped a beat. All the doctors' faces turned ashen, and their eyes were filled with despair. 2 pills. She actually refined 2 pills in one go. This medicinal pill is only a high-grade 3rd grade, right? It can't be the 4th rank, right? Chapter 5:19. Because if it's 3rd grade, then Mayan might still have a fighting chance. But if it's a 4th grade elixir, that's 4th grade. Even the best elixir that Master Jian Feng of the Heavenly Road sect can refine is only 4th grade. Moreover, the success rate isn't high. Usually, only 1 can be refined in 1 furnace. But Shi Lanling has refined 2 4th grade elixirs in one go. How could the doctors not feel despair for Mayan? Maybe it's because of that bet. This time, the one who comes forward to examine the elixirs isn't an ordinary ghost envoy. Instead, it's the ugly ghost slave at Lu Sei's side. He steps forward in large strides, takes one of the elixirs and smells it, then carefully examines it. Soon after, he cracks his mouth, revealing yellow teeth. He laughs cruelly, a 4th grade vein shield Dan. Taking this elixir can withstand an all-out attack from an early pre-celestial practitioner. As soon as these words come out, the whole audience goes silent. Soon after, the ghost envoys burst into an uproar. It's actually a 4th grade vein shield Dan, able to withstand an all-out attack from an early pre-celestial practitioner. That's a real life-saving elixir. Shi Xinzi is truly worthy of being the most famous genius alchemist in the Yanwu continent. She's only in her early 30s, yet she's already reached the level of a 4th grade alchemist. It really leaves people in the dust. Exclamations of admiration rushed towards Shi Lanling like a tide. Even those doctors who were just speaking ill of her, each and every one of them have pale complexions, their faces filled with despair. They can't say another word. Shi Lanling only feels that the resentment that she's accumulated over the past 3 days has been thoroughly vented in this moment. She darkly looks at Mayan and mockingly says, "Jun Mayan, you've been watching for so long, have you learned my secret method of pill condensation? Hee, if you haven't learned it. Do you want me to demonstrate it to you again?" Mayan deeply looks at her, her eyes carrying a trace of understanding, a trace of astonishment, and a trace of pity. Shi Lanling seems to be infuriated by that trace of pity in Mayan's eyes. Her complexion suddenly changes, sneering, "What are you looking at? Jun Mayan, even if the drafts you refine are indeed first-rate, this is alchemy. Do you think you can learn it just by looking? If it was really that easy, there wouldn't be so few people in the entire continent who could concoct pills. I advise you to give up now. Don't waste our time. I see that the sky outside is about to brighten. Just in time, I can let Ghost King Lu preside over your wedding." The ghost slave on the side cracked his mouth again at the right time, looking at Mayan's eyes full of lust. Perhaps it was because his mouth was cracked wider this time, so not only did he reveal 2 rows of dark yellow teeth, but he also revealed the bright red flesh that was stuck in between his teeth. "Madam Enchantress, this servant is very much looking forward to being able to consummate our marriage with you." Han Yi couldn't help but unsheath the long sword in his hand. A cold chill filled the entire hall. "I dare you to say it again." The strong murderous aura made the ghost slave's face change, and he retreated to the side with a smile. At this time, Lu Sei comes forward, saying with a smile that isn't a smile, "Han Yi Darren, there's no need to get angry." Miss June herself agreed to the bet. "You wouldn't want to go back on your word when things come to a head, would you?" Saying that, he looks at Mayan, his gaze deep and serene. "Miss June, I advise you to obediently take the Qi Gu if you really want to win. That way, you might still have a fighting chance." Chapter 520. Mayan's fingers gently plucked the Tian Mo Chin. There was a sudden clashing sound. A cold light flashes, and that Qi Gu has already fallen from the air, splitting into two pieces. Disregarding Lu Sei's unsightly complexion, Mayan waves her hand, and those two burning Qi Gu immediately fly into the Dan furnace. It was one with the fire. She leisurely sat down in front of the pill furnace and unhurriedly threw the herbs into the furnace one by one. Unhurriedly, he said, "Whether I will lose or not, how will I know if I don't try?" Lu Sei fiercely glares at Jun Mayan, there's an indescribable hatred in her eyes. Shi Lanling suddenly sneered, "I thought you had some kind of ability, turns out you really learned my alchemy from start to finish. Ha, I want to see how you're going to condense the pill in a while." As soon as he said that, everyone noticed. The herbs and quantities that Mayan has chosen are exactly the same as Shi Lanling's. This action caused the surrounding doctors to reveal anxious expressions. On the contrary, the people of the Ghost City are sneering one by one, full of disdain. So she really doesn't know how to refine pills. To actually dare to compete with Shi Shinzi in alchemy, he simply doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Lord Ghost Slave, you are so lucky. After today, such a lovely and charming woman will be yours. The Ghost Slave kept laughing, which made the faces of the doctors at the side pale. Finally, the processing and placement of the medicinal herbs were completed. Under the burning of the flames, the herbs began to melt. The next step was to inject Xian Qi and start to condense the pill. At least half of the people in the hall are waiting to see Mayan make a fool of herself. But to everyone's surprise, Mu Yan didn't place her hand in front of the pill furnace and pour her internal force into it. Instead, she picks up the Tian Mo Chin on the side, and begins to gently pluck the strings. Everyone was dumbfounded. They did not understand what she was trying to do. After Shi Lanling stared blankly for a moment, she suddenly laughed and said, "I've heard of playing the lute to a cow, but I've never heard of playing the lute to a pill furnace. Jun Mayan, don't tell me that you think that after hearing your zither music, those herbs will have a great spiritual nature and condense on their own." Ha 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 ha. The people around Shi Lanling all laughed out loud. Almost everyone thinks that Mu Yan is struggling on her deathbed. He had never heard of anyone being able to refine pills through playing the zither. However, as the sound of the zither reverberated between heaven and earth, the flames in the cauldron jumped more and more fiercely. Furthermore, it was faintly emitting a crystal-clear silver light. As for the medicinal herbs that had originally melted, they actually began to show signs of solidification. How is this possible? How could he drive the alchemy fire to condense the herbs by playing the zither? Can't you feel it? Dr. Jun's zither music contains internal force. Could it be? Could it really be possible to condense a pill through the sound of the zither? The arrogant smile on Shi Lanling's face froze in an instant. When the doctors saw this scene, all of them revealed looks of surprise and joy. I heard that Dr. Jun is also known as the music doctor because when she treats people, she can use the sound of the zither to expel the pain. I didn't expect her to be able to use the sound of the zither to refine medicine. This is really a marvelous skill, a marvelous skill. Shi Lanling unwaveringly stared at the slowly condensing pill in the pill furnace, her eyes about to split open. Impossible. How was that possible? How could this slut condense a cord just by playing the zither? Before he could finish his sentence. Chapter 521. The Dan furnace seems to be unable to withstand some powerful energy, as it keeps trembling. Then, without waiting for everyone to react, there's a loud rumbling sound. The whole furnace bursts open, sparks flying everywhere. The people in the main hall are somewhat stunned for a moment. Shi Lanling's incredulous voice comes to an abrupt halt. After a moment of silence, she suddenly bursts into unbridled laughter. Ha ha ha, the furnace exploded, it actually exploded. June Mayan, you lost. She said, without the secret method of core condensation, just relying on internal force, how could June Mayan succeed? Just now, using the sound of the zither to drive the refining process, that slut was just bluffing. The doctors look at the broken pieces of the Dan furnace, each and every one of their faces is filled with despair. It's over, it's really over this time. Just now, they really thought that Mayan could succeed. But the greater the hope, the greater the disappointment. Only Mayan's expression hasn't changed in the whole audience, her fingers still gently plucking on the Tian Mo Chin. Vigorous internal force lingers at her fingertips, sending it to the Tian Mo Chin. There was also a streak of energy that could not be seen with the naked eye. As the internal force slowly seeps into the Tian Mo Chin. That's spiritual power. Ha, ghost slave, what are you still staring at? From now on, June Mayan is your person. Shi Lanling reveals a tyrannical smile, and sinisterly says, wait until her meridians are destroyed. How you want to play with her, how you abuse her, it's all your freedom. Hearing that, the ghost slave's pair of turbid yellow eyes shine brightly. His tongue licks his lips, his cheeks full of tiny particles trembled slightly because of excitement. Step by step, he walks towards Mayan, Madam Enchantress. A moment of spring night is worth 1,000 gold. Since you and I are already husband and wife, I don't think we should wait any longer. Now, follow me to the bridal chamber. Get lost. You disgusting beast. Dr. Song suddenly steps forward, his body still tottering, but he suddenly releases his whole body's pressure. As long as I'm still alive, I won't let your dirty hands touch June Mayan. Several doctors risk their lives, wanting to stand in front of Mayan. But Han Ye's movements are faster than them. He unsheathed his sword and firmly pressed it against the ghost slave's chest. He sneered, if you have the ability, take another step forward. He actually dared to covet the future mistress of their polar domain. He was really tired of living. Lu Se sneers, Han Yi Darren, if you're willing to bet, you must be willing to lose. What are you doing? Even if you're the subordinate of the Dark Sovereign, you can't be unreasonable. If Dark Zun and Han Yi Darren really want to use their power to oppress people, I'm afraid that from now on, Dark Zun's prestige in the Ghost City will completely vanish. Shi Lanling immediately echoed, June Mayan was the one who agreed to the bet. Are you going to go back on your words now that you've lost? The atmosphere on this side was tense, and everyone was ready to strike. Aw dash! Suddenly, Dr. Wang's exclamation came from the direction where Mu Yen was playing the zither, pill condensation, she's still in the middle of pill condensation. The pill refinement isn't over yet. What? Are you kidding me? The pill furnace has already exploded, how can it still be condensing pills? This shout immediately attracted everyone's attention. No one believes that the pill furnace has already exploded, so it's still possible to continue refining pills. However, the next scene that comes into view subverts everyone's imagination. Chapter 522. He saw that under the residue of the exploded pill furnace, there were still sporadic flames leaping about. Just now, no one paid any attention to these flames. Thought they would go out at once. However, upon closer inspection, they discovered that not only were the flames not extinguished, but they were also burning. Instead, it seemed to be wrapped in a layer of gentle silver flames. With the melodious sound of the zither and the burning of the fire, the dregs of the medicine were slowly solidifying. At this moment, it had already begun to take the shape of a pill. He had condensed the core. He had actually condensed a pill. Ding dong. Mu Yan's fingertips turned lightly, and the sound of the zither suddenly became clear and loud. In the next moment, an even more dazzling silver light enveloped the pills, plating them with a layer of silver. Then, a rich and intoxicating medicinal fragrance wafted out. Bit by bit, it seeped into everyone's nostrils and even pores. Hiss! What is this smell? It's so fragrant. I've never smelled a medicinal pill that smells so good. I really want to swallow that pill into my stomach right now. Smelling this medicinal fragrance, I can feel the profound energy in my body boiling. Amidst the rising and falling sounds of discussion, Mu Yan's zither music slowly faded away. The flames and the residue of the cauldron also slowly died out. However, there were more than a dozen silver lights that flew up like meteors and landed in front of Mu Yan. Mu Yan reaches out and grabs it, then slowly spreads it out. Everyone could only see a dozen black pills lying on her palm. There was a deathly silence in the hall, and even the sound of a pin dropping could be heard. After a long time, a thunderous applause and exclamations of praise erupted. It's done, it's really done, there's no need for that disgusting chi goo, it can also be refined into elixirs. Dr. Song and the others are all flushed with excitement, surrounding Mayan in the middle. Just now, they were really breaking out in a cold sweat for Mayan. He was afraid that this young lady with a bright future would really have her meridians destroyed and be tainted by that ugly beast. He had never expected that she would actually refine it into a pill. Furthermore, it was done in such an unimaginable way after the furnace had exploded. Who had ever heard of someone being able to control flames and refine elixirs without a cauldron? When the furnace exploded just now, it really scared this old man to death. I thought you were really going to lose. Dr. Du stroked his beard and said with lingering fear. Yeah. Why did the furnace explode? Facing these seniors who were protecting her, Mu Yan revealed an obedient smile, and explained, because the energy contained in my pill refining method is too strong, the bronze cauldron's endurance is too poor, so it could not withstand it, and in the end, it exploded. Was it because the energy contained in the alchemy was too strong? Everyone looked at the exploded bronze cauldron, then looked at Mu Yan, their faces filled with shock. Did this little girl know what she was talking about? This bronze cauldron was the most popular cauldron for alchemy in the market. Even the Tiandao sect used this cauldron for alchemy. How come I've never heard of anyone exploding their cauldron during pill refinement? Just how powerful was the energy contained within? Moreover, refining 5 or 6 pills in a single furnace was already considered a lot. But Mayan. He had clearly blown up the pill furnace, and the pill flame was so small, but he had actually managed to refine more than 10 pills at once. This was simply inconceivable. However, the strange thing was that these pills, which were emitting a rich fragrance just a moment ago, had now become pitch black and looked very ordinary. There was nothing special about them at all. Chapter 523. Then, he looked towards the dumbfounded Shi Lanling, and the corners of his lips curled up into a light smile. Shi Xianzi, did you just say that I'm learning alchemy from you? Shi Lanling's body suddenly quivers, then she glares at Mayan. How is that possible? You clearly don't know how to refine pills. How could you have succeeded in condensing your core? Mu Yan raises her eyebrows. When did I say that I can't refine pills? If you knew how to refine elixirs, how could you have begged me to refine the golden elixir of 9 orifices? Before Mayan could say anything, Han Yi already coolly says, that's because my family's Jun Shang doesn't want Madam to work hard, so he randomly found an alchemist to do hard labor. In any case, as long as they paid, would they be afraid that they wouldn't be able to find someone to refine pills for them? It's just that Shi Xianzi happens to be in the ghost city, it's convenient and cheap to invite her, that's why Jun Shang chose you. Who would have thought? TSK. Cheap goods don't get good stuff. 3 dark clouds spirit flowers actually only produced 1 golden pill of 9 orifices. These words were simply blatantly saying that Shi Lanling was cheap goods. Shi Lanling's face alternated between green and white. Her eyes were bloodshot as if she wanted to eat someone alive. Unfortunately, Han Yi doesn't seem to have provoked her enough. He continued, "Oh, that's right, just now I remember someone praising Fairysh or something. He's only in his early 30s and he already knows alchemy." "Hee, you're already in your 30s. You're already so old. Do you think you're that great at alchemy? Our family's madam is not even 20 years old and can already refine pills. The pills he refined were 100 times better than yours. Some people look at the sky from the bottom of a well, but they still want to show off. Their skin is really thicker than the city walls. You shut up." Shi Lanling couldn't help but roar. Who does this slut think she is? How could the pills she refined be better than mine? So what if she refined 10 pills? Look at that color and aura, how can it be compared to my Meridian Shield pill? As she spoke, Shi Lanling slowly calmed down. Her gloomy gaze schemes over the elixir in Mayan's hand, then she becomes more and more certain. If it was before this period of time, she might have been a little fearful of the fact that she could only refine third-grade pills at most. But now, after taking the medicine that Lu Se gave her, not only had the white jade purple frost on her body been dispelled, her looks had also become even more beautiful. Even her pill refining abilities had been greatly enhanced. In the past, she had never succeeded in refining a 4th-grade medicinal pill, but today, she easily succeeded. Moreover, it was a middle-grade Meridian Shield pill. Just casually taking it out, it could make Yanwu Continent's practitioners break their heads over it. He doesn't know what trick that slut June Mayan used, pretending to refine an elixir. But there are no 4th-grade elixirs on the market, so the elixirs that June Mayan takes out are definitely inferior to hers. The person who won in the end was still her, Shi Lanling. Shi Lanling took a deep breath and looked at the ghost slave beside her. What are you waiting for? Go and have a look. What's the grade of the elixir? Don't tell me someone thinks that a dozen or so grade 1 pills can be compared to my grade 4 Meridian Shield pill. This sentence once again made everyone's hearts jump to their throats. That's right, Mayan does refine a lot of elixirs. But in terms of appearance, it was not as dazzling as Shi Lanling's pill. The only one present who believes in Mayan is Han Yi. Chapter 524. That's because all the effects are contained within the elixir, not even a little bit is exposed. Otherwise, as an immortal from the Shushan continent, he wouldn't be so thick-skinned as to follow behind Mayan all day long, hoping to ask for one more elixir. The ghost slave quickly steps forward and takes one of the elixirs. He smells it, carefully inspects it, and then frowns. Ghost King, this slave can't tell what kind of elixir this is, and can't tell what its quality is. The ghost slave looks at Lu Se. This slave has never seen this kind of elixir before. Ha, ha. Hearing that, Shi Lanling immediately bursts into laughter. Sure enough, June Mayan, you really made some trash to fool everyone. Do you really think we're all fools? Mayan indifferently says, if he can't tell the quality of the elixir, does that mean that these elixirs are trash? Who does he think he is? Stop struggling. Shi Lanling fiercely says, in the Yanwu continent, even though not everyone can refine pills, everyone knows the pill recipes that are available. Since no one has seen the elixirs that you've refined, and even the ghost slave can't tell the quality, then they must be useless trash. Ha! Mayan lowly laughs, a pair of delicate peach blossom eyes slightly raise, outlining a languid and charming arc, a frog at the bottom of a well, ignorant and inexperienced, but you still have the nerve to bark here. Didn't you want to know whether these elixirs are trash or not? How about I let you see them with your own eyes? Saying that, she leisurely walks forward a few steps. She stops right next to the still unconscious Magistrate Lu. There's only one elixir left in her hand, and she puts it into Magistrate Lu's mouth. At this time, Magistrate Lu is already on the verge of death. The black fog that Lu Sei just released to him is the poison smog. And the reason why Magistrate Lu didn't die on the spot like the doctor. It's only because his cultivation is very high. The internal force in his body temporarily withstands the outbreak of the poison smog. But it's just a struggle at death's door. As long as it drags on for another quarter of an hour, he's bound to be like the doctor, his whole body rotting and dying. Seeing Mu Yan's actions, Shi Lanling stares blankly at first, then she laughs out loud. Jun Mu Yan, you can't be thinking that you can cure the Ghost Wind Valley's poison smog just by relying on that trash pill, right? Do you know that this poison smog has existed for hundreds of years and no one has ever been able to cure it? Don't tell me you've lost your mind because you know you're going to lose. Mu Yan ignores her clamor. After sending the pill into Magistrate Lu's body, she immediately stimulated her internal force, letting the pill take effect in Magistrate Lu's body. On the side, Shi Lanling and the ghost envoys are still unscrupulously laughing at Mayan. All of a sudden, cries of alarm rang out in the hall. Look at his face. It was Dr. Wang who spoke. His expression was as if he had seen a miracle in the world. The black spots on his face are fading, and his breathing is becoming stable. God! It's cured, the poison smog in his body is really being removed. In a split second, the laughter of Shi Lanling and the ghost messengers could be heard. It's like a quacking duck suddenly being choked by the throat. Shi Lanling looks over as if she's seen a ghost. Even if you beat her to death, she wouldn't believe that Jun Mu Yan could really cure the poison smog. Compared to Shi Lanling, it's Lu Sei who's trying to correct her. Chapter 525. But it's slapped away by Mayan, Ghost King Lu. Magistrate Lu's life is related to the outcome of the competition between me and Shi Shenzi. If you accidentally kill him, wouldn't I lose unjustly? Lu Sei glares at her, her rough voice trembling with a hint of disbelief. You cured him. You cured the poison smog. How is this possible? No one is clearer than Lu Sei. The poison smog is mixed with the poisonous smoke of the 7-star grass, after it is ignited. And this 7-star grass can only be found in the Shushan continent and the Shushin continent. Not only does it not exist in the Yanwu continent, there is also no medicine that can restrain the 7-star grass. That's because only elixirs that contain spiritual power could have an effect on the 7-star grass. How could the elixirs that Mayan, a mortal of the Yanwu continent, refined by herself, restrain the 7-star grass? Unless, cough. Violent coughs come from Magistrate Lu's mouth. He slowly opens his eyes and looks around, his face full of confusion. What's going on? Suddenly, a scene flashes through his mind, and his pupils suddenly contract. Didn't I die from the poison smog? Mayan pats his shoulder and stands up. Don't worry, you won't die in a short time. The poison smog in your body has already been dispelled. The expression on Magistrate Lu's face becomes even more bewildered. He stands up, moves his hands and feet, touches his face, and runs his internal force. Then he says in shock, I'm really still alive. And the poison smog in my body is all gone. What's going on? Shinshu Darren, did you save me? Mayan doesn't pay attention to him, but looks at Shi Lanling with a smile that isn't a smile. Shi Shenzi, do you still think that your elixir is more valuable than mine? Ho! All of a sudden, everyone comes back to their senses. Each and every one of them suck in a mouthful of cold air, their expressions aghast. And among them, the ghost envoys of the ghost city are even more panic-stricken, finding it hard to believe. The Ghost Wind Valley's poison smog has existed for hundreds of years, and no one has ever been able to dispel it. Therefore, even if a peak pre-celestial expert enters the Ghost Wind Valley, they could only let the ghost city slaughter them. But today, the Ghost Wind Valley's poison smog was actually broken by someone. Moreover, it was solved by a girl who was not even 20 years old. How could they accept this? Ha! Good job. Well done. Little girl, I didn't misjudge you. Dr. Song vigorously pats Mayan's shoulder. His face is filled with gratification. I didn't expect that you could actually refine an antidote to the poison smog. This elixir is truly 100 times more precious than any other elixir. Ha ha ha. Dr. Du, on the other hand, sneered at Shi Lanling. Shi Shenzi, who was the one who said that since you lost, you should obediently carry out the bet. Now that you've lost, isn't it time for you to fulfill the bet and cripple your own meridians? Ha ha ha, that's right, Shi Shenzi, you were the one who wanted to bet. It can't be that now that you've lost, you want to act shamelessly, right? Shi Lanling's eyes widen, as if they're about to pop out. Jun Mayan only saved the injured Magistrate Lu. What makes you say that she can cure the poison smog? If a random healing pill can be compared to my 4th grade Meridian Shield pill, wouldn't that be the biggest joke in the world? Chapter 526. Magistrate Lu was stunned at first, then he fiercely clenched his teeth. Without saying a word, he turned around and walked out of the hole. Everyone held their breath as they watched Magistrate Lu walk into the thick fog. He was slowly entangled by the wisps of black fog, and even his whole body was swallowed up. The timid Dr. Wang could not help but swallow a mouthful of saliva. He was afraid that he would hear Magistrate Lu's scream in the next moment. However, after the time it took to brew a cup of tea, everything was as usual. A quarter of an hour passed, but there was still no scream. Soon after, Magistrate Lu swaggered in from outside. Not only was there no fear on his face, but it was also filled with excitement. As soon as he enters the hall, he rushes towards Mu Yen, shouting, "Shinshu Darren, this elixir must be consigned for sale in our ghost city. I'll only take half." No, I won't take a single cent. The corner of Mu Yan's mouth twitches. This old man really, he still doesn't forget about the ghost city's business at this time. Should it be said that he had a screw loose in his brain or that he was insensitive? However, right at this moment, a sudden change occurred. Magistrate Lu is about to rush in front of Mu Yan and hug her thighs. Suddenly, a black shadow soared into the sky from the side. It was wrapped in a powerful killing intent, and went straight towards Magistrate Lu. It was a ghost slave. Be careful. Dodge. Despicable and shameless bastard, you actually launched a sneak attack. The doctors cried out in fear. Dr. Song moves forward, wanting to rush over to save Magistrate Lu. However, it was too late. It was too late. In other words, it was fortunate that Dr. Song didn't rush forward, otherwise, he would have been killed by the ghost slave along with Magistrate Lu. Because at this moment, they realized. This ugly and inconspicuous ghost slave actually had the terrifying cultivation of a high-level pre-celestial. At the side, Shi Lanling slowly raised the corner of her mouth, revealing a sinister smile. As long as Magistrate Lu died, no matter how he died. Jun Mayan's elixir can't be said to be able to cure the poison smog. It could not be said that he was definitely stronger than her. And in this martial arts competition, she would not lose. Bang! In the end, the ghost slave's palm still fell on Magistrate Lu's body. Magistrate Lu's whole body flew out like a kite with a broken string, heavily hitting the table. The heavy mahogany tables and chairs were smashed into pieces like tofu. Even the tables and chairs suffered such an impact. Not to mention Magistrate Lu. For a moment, the complexion of all the doctors was as black as water. They couldn't bear to look at Magistrate Lu's miserable state. Shi Lanling chuckled softly. Chapter 527. As early as when she had the ghost slave make his move, Shi Lanling had him hide the poison smog on his body. When she killed Magistrate Lu, she injected the poison smog into his body. In this way, if she says that Magistrate Lu was poisoned to death by the poison smog, then he was poisoned to death. Damn it. Bah bah bah, this old man's bones are falling apart. Suddenly, an angry curse comes from the main hall. She sees that Magistrate Lu, who has fallen into the debris of the tables and chairs, is actually spitting as he stands up. Facing Shi Lanling's dumbfounded face, he can't help but crack open his mouth, revealing a sinister smile. Who told you that this old man is dead? You, how could you not be dead? The ghost slave is even more surprised than Shi Lanling. His rough and unpleasant voice suddenly rises. That strike of mine just now was with my full power. You've just broken through to pre-celestial, how could you possibly survive? Magistrate Lu moves his arms, spreading his hands. TSK, full power, and that's it? This old man doesn't even have a little injury. I'm very well. Saying that, he returns to the ground and jumps in a circle, very much like an old urchin, very infuriating. How is this possible? How is this possible? Shi Lanling shakes her head with all her might, then she looks at Mayan. Mayan chuckles lowly, slowly walking to Magistrate Lu's side. She checks that there are no injuries on his body, then withdraws her hand. As if carelessly saying, "Oh, that's right, did I forget to say the name of this elixir?" This elixir is an improved version of the Vein Shield pill. It can resist the poison smog and treat minor internal injuries. Of course, the most important effect is that it can resist an all-out attack from a practitioner below high-level pre-celestial. Her line of sight falls on Shi Lanling, and she unhurriedly says, "Shi Shenzi, do you think it's the same Vein Shield pill, your elixir, or mine is better?" The whole audience goes deathly silent. Then, ha 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 ha. Unbridled laughter comes from the doctors' mouths. A few doctors even laughed so hard that tears came out of their eyes. It's actually a Vein Shield pill, it's also a Vein Shield pill. This comparison of effects is simply a slap in the face. Even those highly respected doctors can't help but stroke their beards, laughing especially heartily. And the way they looked at Mu Yen was as if they were looking at a monster. Soon after, as if realizing something, they suddenly clenched the elixirs that Mayan had just given them. It was as if he was holding a rare treasure. This was the Meridian Shield pill that could cure the poison smog. Its value could not be measured with gold coins. Both are Meridian Shield pellets, but one can only block a low-level Sciention attack, while the other can block a high-level Sciention attack. Not to mention, Dr. June refined 10 Meridian Shield pills in one go, and they also have the effects of resisting the poison smog and healing injuries. Is there still a need to say who wins and who loses in this alchemy competition? Ha! Everyone looked at Shi Lanling in unison. Shi Lanling's previously insolent face was now deathly pale and filled with fear. She shook her head furiously as she retreated. No. No. I didn't lose. I don't want my meridians destroyed. I'm Ghost City Shi Shenzi, a famous alchemy genius in Yanwu continent. You can't do this to me. Her frightened voice had not yet fallen. Han Ye's figure suddenly disappears like a ghost. With a swish, blood splatters everywhere. A head flies high up in the sky, and rolls down with a grunt. Chapter 528. Shi Lanling trembles, lowering her head in horror. She sees the ghost slave's ugly face, stained with blood, falling at her feet. A pair of muddy, bloodshot eyes are staring at her. There's confusion, fear, and the despair that's about to befall her. Ah! Lanling lets out a mournful scream, falling on her butt to the ground. Han Yi just casually wipes the blood on the sword in his hand, sneering, "I said, daring to covet my family's madam, simply courting death." Saying that, he smiles merrily at Lu Se. "Ghost King Lu, I'm sorry, I've directly dealt with your subordinates for you. You won't have any objections, right?" Lu Se's complexion is ashen, but he can't say a word. Han Yi continues, "Then what about this one? Do you want me to continue dealing with it for you?" As he says that, his sword points at Lanling, who's on the verge of collapse. Lu Se unhurriedly walks over to Lanling's side. Lanling raises her head, her face full of hope as she looks at Lu Se. "Ghost King Lu, save me, save me. I don't want my meridians to be crippled, I don't want to become a cripple." Before she could finish speaking, Lu Se's hand presses down on the top of her head. A powerful energy mixed with a cold and gloomy aura suddenly pours down from Lanling's head. Pft, pft, pft. From Lanling's body, there's suddenly a sound like a rubber water bag leaking. Soon after, everyone sees that Lanling's 5 orifices, as well as her skin, are all oozing with blood. No, it's not accurate to say oozing, it should be said that it's shooting out. After a few short breaths, Lanling weakly collapses, lying in a pool of blood. At this very moment, her meridians aren't just crippled. Even the bones of her hands and feet have been shattered. Even his originally rather outstanding appearance had become riddled with holes, all of which were bloody holes. There's a deathly stillness in the main hall. Even if the doctors didn't like Lanling a moment ago. Seeing her miserable condition at this time, they can't help but be fearful. The dignified Ghost City's fairy, the alchemy genius that everyone in Yanwu continent admires. In just a short moment, she's completely crippled, turning into a lump of rotten flesh that's worse than death. And the one who made the move was Yama King Lu Se, someone who was originally supposed to be on the same side as Lanling. This Lu Se's heart was so ruthless and dark. Lu Se takes out a silk handkerchief and wipes the hand that had just touched Lanling's head. A smile appears on her face. "I don't know if Miss June is satisfied with fulfilling the bet like this." Mu Yen also revealed a smile. But that smile completely didn't reach the depths of his eyes. "Ghost King Lu, now that the alchemy competition is over and the bet has been fulfilled, shouldn't you let me take a look at the Ghost King's illness?" "Of course." Lu Se's eyes flash with an indecipherable light. Miss June has already proven her medical skills, naturally she is qualified to treat the Ghost Lord. "In that case, please follow me, Miss June." Without waiting for the others to react, he turned around and walked towards the back of the hall. When the doctors see that Mu Yen wants to follow, they immediately become anxious. "Little girl, don't go. This person is so cruel and merciless, I don't know if he wants to harm you or not." "Yeah. Look at how ruthless he was to Lanling. You absolutely cannot trust this person. The Ghost King has nothing to do with you. You don't have to risk your life to save him." Chapter 529. The Ghost Lord naturally isn't related to her. But from Han Yi and Ing Mei's tone, he can tell that this Ghost Lord called Guyuk should still be quite close to them. It's only because they're in the Yanwu continent that they can't casually make a move and affect the fate of heaven and earth, so they can only endure and not help. They can't help, but Mayan can. Moreover, she remembers that after the Ghost Lord's body was never seen, the entire Ghost City's resources were all taken by Gong Qinxue. She absolutely can't bear such an ending. So the Ghost Lord, she must save him. "Stop. The ghost hall's holy land, unauthorized people are not allowed to enter. Mayan follows Lu Se all the way to a palace in the deepest part of the Ghost Wind Valley. But just as she's about to enter, several figures suddenly rush out like ghosts, blocking in front of them. Lu Se seems to have expected such a situation, and unhurriedly says, "Please help inform the Ghost Lord's black and white protectors. This is the Enchantress of Medicine June Mayan. I've specially invited her to treat the Ghost Lord." Hearing that, those ghostly men look at Mayan and frown, but they don't say anything. She immediately puts her hand to her lips and blows a strange whistle. As the whistle falls, the palace's door rumbles and opens. A deep and sharp voice comes from inside at the same time, "Come in." Lu Se takes the lead and steps in, with Mayan and Han Yi following behind her. Soon, the scene inside the room comes into view. They see that this is a hall that's several times smaller than the hall where the alchemy competition was just held. But the furnishings in the hall are even more luxurious. There's an empty seat in the middle of the hall, but there are two men sitting on each side. The man on the left is dressed in black, and has a rough appearance. The man on the right is Snow White, looking somewhat effeminate. That deep and sharp voice just now is coming from them. Mayan has also heard that every ghost king in the ghost city will have a pair of black and white ghost messengers. And the Ghost Lord will have a pair of black and white protectors. They are respectively named Black Impermanence and White Impermanence. Although they belong to the ghost city, they are only loyal to the Ghost Lord. Presumably, these two are Ghost Lord Gu Yu's black and white protectors. Which one is the Enchantress of Medicine June Mayan? Mayan steps forward and says with a smile, "This one is June Mayan." Seeing how young she looked, the black and white protectors frowned. Lu Se casually finds a place to sit down, faintly saying, "Two law protectors, don't look at Miss June's young age, her medical skills are superb." The elixir she refined defeated Shirlanling, and even cured the Ghost Wind Valley's poison smog. It took me a lot of effort to find her and confirm that she is the person most likely to cure the Ghost King. That's why I brought her here. After saying that, Mu Yen and Han Yi look at him strangely, their brows slightly wrinkling. This Lu Se was actually speaking up for her. It could even be said that Lu Se couldn't wait for her to treat the Ghost Lord. Why? Listening to Lu Se's words, the black and white protectors pondered for a while, and finally nodded. "You can treat the Ghost Lord, but only you alone can go in." What a joke! Han Yi immediately retorts, "What if Miss June encounters danger after going in? I must go in with Miss June." Chapter 530. Seeing the Dark Lord's token, the black and white protectors' eyes suddenly widen, their faces revealing a struggling expression. But in the end, their loyalty to the Ghost Lord suppresses their reverence and fear towards the legendary Dark Lord. No, the black and white protectors shake their heads, except for the doctor. No one is allowed to enter the Ghost Lord's holy land. But we can guarantee that the Enchantress of Medicine is absolutely safe inside. "I'll go to your holy land. Isn't that the place where that guy Gu sleeps and cultivates? I don't know how many times Laozi has gone in and out of here since hundreds of years ago. When Laozi peed inside, you guys weren't even born yet. Impudent! You dare insult the Ghost Lord." The black and white protectors suddenly stand up, their murderous intent fully revealed. Just then, Lu Se chuckles, "Han Yi Darren, what's the hurry? The Ghost Lord's house is a stone room, there are no windows on all sides, only one door. We'll guard outside the door, and no one else can enter. Are you still worried that the Enchantress would be in danger like this?" Han Yi still wants to say something, but Mu Yen gently pats him to stop him. Then she gives Lu Se a deep look, and says in a low voice, "Okay, I agree, I'll go in alone." The heavy stone door closes behind her. Mu Yan slowly walks inside, feeling the wisps of spiritual power gushing out from the ground. Her mind immediately comes to a realization. No wonder this place is called the Ghost Hall's Holy Land. It turns out that there's a spiritual vein buried underneath this stone house. Although this spiritual vein is very thin, only wisps of spiritual power seeping out. But cultivating next to this spiritual vein, a martial practitioner's advancement speed would be several times faster than usual. The cave that Mu Yan found on Nameless Mountain that day also hid such a spiritual vein. But it's far from being as thick and pure as this spiritual vein in the Holy Hall of the Ghost Hall. When Mu Yan found that spiritual vein, she only thought that cultivating internal force next to it would increase a lot faster. But now that her body has formed a spiritual root, she knows. The most precious thing about a spiritual vein isn't that it allows a martial practitioner to absorb more internal force. Instead, it's that there are wisps of spiritual energy seeping out here, which are unique in the Yanwu continent. If one cultivates next to a spiritual vein for a long time, even one's root bone would slowly improve. In her previous life, this spiritual vein might also fall into Gong Qinshua's hands. Mu Yan frowns slightly. She crouches down and gently touches the bluestone floor. When his palm touched the ground, he felt that the spiritual energy flowing in was even richer and purer. It simply made her feel indescribably comfortable. His meridians and dantian seemed to have been cleansed. This is different from the spiritual power in the Tian Mo Qin space. The spiritual power in the Tian Mo Qin space can only be used for alchemy. He wanted to use it to cultivate, but for some reason, he was unable to absorb it. What a pity. If only I could always bring the spiritual vein with me to cultivate. Mu Yan muttered regretfully. In this way, her spirit cultivation level might also be able to grow like mystic cultivation. However, as soon as he finished speaking, a sudden change occurred. Suddenly, the dim stone room, which was only lit by candlelight, suddenly lit up with a resplendent light. The melodious sound of the zither echoed in the enclosed space. Mayan looks up in astonishment, only to see that her Tian Mo Qin has unexpectedly flown out on its own. As it played, it emitted a sparkling white light. Chapter 531. Then, the ground beneath them trembled. Countless white lights, like dense fireflies, fly towards the glowing Tian Mo Qin. Mu Yan looks at this scene dumbfoundedly, and subconsciously reaches out to touch the firefly-like specks of light. When the light touched her skin, she felt a comfortable spiritual power flowing through her body. It was so comfortable that she almost wanted to sigh. What was going on? Why does it look like the Tian Mo Qin is absorbing this spiritual vein? But since when could spirit veins be absorbed in a short period of time? Isn't this a little too inconceivable? Mayan's figure swayed and disappeared from where she stood, entering the space. As soon as she entered, Xiaobao ran over and hugged her thigh. His usually cold voice contained a bit of surprise. Mother, look, the space has changed. Yes, the space had changed. A hill had appeared in front of the originally lush green plains. On the hill, hundreds of flowers bloomed, and on the flowers, dots of light overlapped, as if embellishing a galaxy. It was indescribably beautiful. Little Bao stared at the Milky Way, his big eyes flashing. Mother, the smell coming from there smells so good. Mu Yan takes a deep breath, the shock on her face slowly turns into ecstasy. Of course it smelled good, because it was clearly the aura of a spirit vein. Heavens! The spirit vein of the Ghost Hall's Holy Land was actually absorbed by the Tian Mo Qin. It even appeared directly in the space. Holding Xiao Bao's hand, Mu Yan slowly approaches. As the distance between him and the spirit vein shortened, the feeling of his body being cleansed and nourished became more and more obvious. His dried-up dantian excitedly absorbed the rich spiritual energy, which then flowed through his meridians. At that moment, Mu Yen actually felt that her spiritual power cultivation had advanced. However, she was completely clueless about the spirit cultivation system, so she had no idea what level her cultivation had reached. But that didn't stop her from being in a good mood. If it wasn't for the fact that this was the wrong place and that she had to treat the Ghost King, she would have sat down cross-legged to cultivate immediately. After making arrangements for Xiao Bao to cultivate next to the spiritual vein, Mu Yen flashes out of the space. At this moment, the dazzling light had disappeared without a trace. The entire stone chamber returned to its original darkness. The candlelight flickered not far away, illuminating the only bed in the entire room. The Ghost King was lying on that bed. The Ghost King Guyu, also known as the Ghost Emperor, is the de facto controller of the Ghost City. In the Yenwu continent, this is a person who can call the wind and summon the rain, a person whom ordinary practitioners revere and look up to. But now, he was lying alone in the cold stone room. Mu Yen slowly walks to the bedside. The moment she sees the person on the bed, she jumps in fright. The man on the bed was motionless, his body stiff. His face was purple under the candlelight. This doesn't look like a living person, right? At this moment, the person lying on the bed suddenly opened his eyes. His grayish-white eyes were unfocused. The greenish-gray lips parted slightly, as if it was breathing, but also as if it wanted to speak. He could move, open his eyes, and breathe. This should be a living person. But Mu Yen still feels very strange. She grabbed the Ghost King's hand and placed it on his wrist. The pulse throbbed strongly under her fingers. However, Mu Yen frowned deeply. Why was this pulse so strange? He was clearly breathing and had a pulse, but his entire body exuded an aura of death. He was about to send in his qi to carefully examine the Ghost King's illness. Chapter 532. Suddenly, her complexion greatly changes, and she quickly retreats. But she's still a step too late. The fingernails of the hand that she's taking her pulse on suddenly lengthens, ruthlessly grabbing at her body. The black, smelly fingernails tear through the clothes on her shoulders, piercing into her skin. 3 bloody marks on her snow-white shoulder appear so glaring. Mayan turns to look at the wound. The 3 bloodstains were dyed black in the blink of an eye. A numbing pain instantly spreads from her shoulder to her whole body. This is corpse poison. TSK, your reaction is really fast. Originally, my Corpse King's fingernails should have directly pierced your heart, dug it out, and let me taste it. A rough voice comes from the corner. Soon after, the wall next to the bed rumbles loudly, separating to the 2 sides. Lu Sei's figure slowly walks out from inside. The candlelight shines on her wrinkled and pitted face. Coupled with her difficult and unpleasant laughter, it's particularly frightening. But it doesn't matter. You've already been poisoned by my Corpse King's corpse poison. When it flares up later, you'll still be fish on my chopping block, and I'll taste it as I please. Mayan's cold eyes fall on her, but there's no panic in her expression. She quickly takes out a bottle of draft from the space, and pours it on the wound. Then she swallows another elixir. Internal force and spiritual power circulates together, and the numbness and stiffness in her body disappears. But this corpse poison is very powerful, and she can't completely remove it for a while. She can only force it to a certain part of her body. Lu Sei stares at her series of actions, and the hatred in her eyes slowly turns into greed. Jun Mayan, tell me, why do you have spiritual power? Why can you refine real elixirs? And what kind of magic tool is the zither that you use to refine elixirs? If you obediently answer all my questions, I might leave you an intact corpse. Lu Sei's original purpose in coming to the Ghost Wind Valley is naturally to avenge her pretty boy, Xianji. She wants to hack Jun Mayan into 1,000 pieces. However, when she saw Jun Mayan's alchemy technique, and saw the mysterious Di Mingju, Han Yi, and the others attach great importance to Jun Mayan, Lu Sei slowly realizes that this woman's body hides a great secret. This secret might even give her the opportunity to return to the Shushan continent and return to the Tiani men. That's right, Lu Sei and Xianji are the same, originally residents of the Shushan continent. Because he did something wrong, he was expelled by Tiani men. However, unlike Xianji, Xianji had his immortal bone removed. But Lu Sei was poisoned with the most dreadful goo poison of the Tiani men. Lu Sei has already been banished to the Yenwu continent for over 100 years. Due to the effects of the parasite, she became uglier and uglier. Her body was riddled with holes, and she looked neither human nor ghost. She had long since given up hope of returning to the Shushan continent. But seeing Jun Mayan today, hope finally ignites in her heart. Because in Lu Sei's heart, there was a bold conjecture. Mayan sneers, but doesn't answer her question. Instead, she says unhurriedly, Ghost King Lu has something to ask me. It just so happens that I also have something to ask Ghost King Lu. When I saw Shirlanling concoct pills today, I felt it was very strange. With her level, it was impossible for her to concoct a 4th-rank Meridian Shield pill. Moreover, the Meridian Shield pill actually contained the aura of spirit power. Chapter 533. If I haven't guessed wrong, you should have made sure Lanling take a special kind of goo a few days ago, making her think that she had detoxified the poison of the white jade purple frost, and that her alchemy skills had also increased. But she didn't know that every time she did alchemy, this goo gnawed on her blood essence. This goo gave Shirlanling a temporary beauty and a powerful alchemy ability, and you use Shirlanling's ability to be stimulated for a short period of time to refine the medicine that poisoned the Ghost Lord, turning him into the living dead he is today, or rather, your puppet. Ghost King Lu, am I right? Clap, clap, clap. Lu Sei's face is full of admiration as she applauds, truly worthy of being the Enchantress of medicine, being able to guess so much just by relying on these little clues. I really can't help but admire you. However, so what if you've guessed it? Now that you've been poisoned by my corpse poison, no one will come into this stone room to save you, hee hee. I advise you to obediently let yourself be captured, lest you suffer even more. Mayan raises her hand, and the Tian Mo Chin suddenly appears in her hand. Under the candlelight, the beautiful little face lifts up into an unruly and willful smile. In the end, who will suffer even more? How would you know if you don't try? Clang! The strings vibrate, and countless wind blades shoot towards Lu Sei like a rain of arrows. Lu Southeast stands in her place, not moving an inch. But the Ghost Lord Guyu rushes over like a gust of wind. His black fingernails lengthen again. A rotten stench, accompanied by a formidable pressure and impact, hits her in the face. That's a fighting strength that far surpasses the peak pre-celestial. It's as if the entire space of the stone room has been turned upside down by Guyu. And Mayan is like a small boat in the middle of the ocean, about to be overturned at any time. This is a suppression of strength that transcends several levels. It's not something that can be surpassed by relying on talent and skills. Looking at Mayan's distressed appearance under Guyu's attack, Lu Sei bursts into laughter. Jun Mayan, at your age, you're actually able to reach the high level of pre-celestial cultivation. I admit that your talent really shocks me. But that's all. In the eyes of the people of our Shushan continent, you creatures of the Yenwu continent are, at best, just a little higher than ants. Or do you think that with your current cultivation, you can really defeat my Corpse King? Do you know how much Ghost King Guyu's cultivation was originally higher than yours? Even though he has now become a corpse soldier, his cultivation has been preserved, and he is no longer restricted by the spatial barrier. Do you really think you can win? Mu Yan's current situation was indeed very bad. Ever since her rebirth, this was the first time she felt that her life was in danger. At this time, Guyu was like a zombie. He was not afraid of pain or injury, but his movements were extremely nimble. Mu Yan's sound blade attack has already reached the level of 100 blades, but Guyu doesn't need to dodge. The distance between them was getting shorter and shorter. Bang! Mu Yan is unable to dodge in time, and Guyu's fist heavily hits her shoulder. A sharp pain came from his shoulder. He could even hear the sound of bones breaking. Mu Yan's complexion suddenly turns deathly pale. Guyu had already turned his fist into a palm. His black fingernails suddenly stretch out, a cold glint flickering as it goes straight for her heart. In the nick of time, the Tian Mo Qin is lifted up, blocking the palm. Chapter 534. The Tian Mo Qin was unscathed, but Guyu transmitted a powerful attack through the sound of the Qin. But it makes Mayan suddenly spit out a mouthful of blood. The scalding blood falls on the strings of the zither, causing the Tian Mo Qin to make a buzzing sound. Mayan only feels that everything in front of her is a blur. Her whole body, whether it's her meridians, dantian, or qi, is burning with pain. Xiao Bao's heart-wrenching screams seem to be ringing in his ears. Mother! Mother! Let me out! Let me out! The small body kept hitting the spatial wall, trying to rush out. But, no. No. Mu Yan fiercely bites the tip of her tongue, forcing herself to calm down. She couldn't fall, she couldn't lose. If she fell, she wouldn't be the only one to die. Xiao Bao, who was in the space, would also die. The moment she was reborn, she swore that she would protect her baby for the rest of her life. She would never let her baby get hurt. Mayan staggers to her feet, her hands tightly gripping the Tian Mo Qin. The blood on the string seeped into the body of the zither bit by bit. His blood, which should have been cold after such a long time, became boiling hot at this moment. Mayan's eyes are scarlet as she stares at Guyu. She wanted to win. She would never allow her baby to be alone. You want to become stronger. Suddenly, she heard a deep and rich voice. The voice seemed to come from the void. It seemed to come from the depths of her soul. It was a strange yet vaguely familiar voice. You want to become the supreme existence of the three realms. Mayan's pupils slightly contract, and she silently says 3 words in her heart, Tian Mo Qin. Yes, this is the sound of the Tian Mo Qin. Once in the Shen musician space of inheritance, she had also faintly heard it. When the spiritual roots were being reconstructed in Jin Wangfu, there was also a vague echo of this voice. But it had never been as clear as it was now. That old, thick, and seductive voice echoed in his mind over and over again. Do you want to become stronger? If you want to become a supreme king, then offer your flesh and blood to me, offer your soul to me. I will take your place and protect you. From now on, you will be high and mighty, invincible. Rip. Guyu's black armor once again tears Mayan's clothes. The wound on his back was so deep that his bones could be seen. The corpse poison that he had suppressed earlier was stirring in his dantian, as if it was on fire. Mayan's consciousness is getting more and more fuzzy. But Xiao Bao's heart-wrenching cries and the Tian Mo Qin's enticing voice are getting louder and louder. If she dedicates her soul to the Tian Mo Qin, she can obtain supreme power. If she lets the Tian Mo Qin control her body, she'll be able to survive and protect Xiao Bao. Mayan's lips move, as if she wants to say something. All of a sudden, a frantic voice seemed to come from the horizon. Mother is the most awesome. Xiaobao loves mother the most. Jun Mayan, you are destined to be my Dimingju's wife. His eyes, which were dyed red, suddenly flashed with a glaring light. Because of the pain, his figure is hunched over, supporting the Tian Mo Qin that is dripping with blood, and slowly stands up. Tian Mo Qin, I'll say it again. I am your master. Stop trying to seduce me, control me, and replace me. Her slender, blood-stained fingers gently stroked the strings of the instrument. Chapter 535. Tian Mo Qin, now, tell me your choice. Buzz buzz buzz. The blood-stained Tian Mo Qin makes a sound of unwillingness and longing. But in the end, under Mayan's resolute and powerful mind, the voice slowly disappeared. Then, there was a sudden deafening sound of the zither. The entire stone room seemed to shake violently because of the sound of the zither. Lu Sei only felt the blood in her body churning, and then she discovered to her horror that she had unexpectedly lost control of the corpse King Guyu. What happened? Jun Mayan, what did you do? She looked as far as she could. The unremarkable black zither that Mu Yan had just grasped in her hands suddenly lit up with a bright light. The bloodstains on the zither's body had completely disappeared. Luster circulated around the zither, as if it was carved out of the most precious and beautiful ancient jade in the world. Little girl, listen carefully to me. What I'm forcibly opening for you now is the third realm of the Shin musician, Broken Moon. On the Yenwu continent, you can skip levels and master a Shin musician's level 3 skill. If you still lose like this and cause my true self to be sealed again, I will definitely destroy your soul and send you to hell forever. At this moment, the Tian Mo Qin's voice carries a trace of exasperation. But strangely, it was no longer old and deep. Instead, it sounded like a young man's voice. But at this time, Mu Yan couldn't care less. Because in the split second when the voice in her mind fades away, a powerful energy bursts out from the hand holding the Tian Mo Qin. At that moment, she felt as if her meridians and dantian were about to explode. Intense pain spread throughout her body. In just a few breaths of time, her entire body was soaked in cold sweat. Then, a ding sounded in his mind. A Shin musician's skill that she has never seen before appears in her mind. 7 Sword Spirits. The only close combat skill of a Shin musician below the 3rd level. Zither strings transform into swords, all spirits return to origin. Once the skill is activated, the 7 strings of the Tian Mo Qin turn into 7 swords, revolving around Mayan. Driven by spiritual power, the sound of the Guqin automatically assisted. Retreat to defend, advance to attack. Ever since she obtained the Shin musician inheritance, Mayan has been practically invincible in the Yenwu continent. But Mu Yan herself knows that there is a fatal flaw in the Shin musician skills that she has mastered. Only long-range attacks, no close-range combat. It's just that in the past, the opponents she's encountered are all mediocre. She doesn't need to use her Shin musician skills to defeat them. That was why this weakness was not exposed. And now, she had finally made up for her last weakness. Mayan's complexion is pale, but the corner of her mouth slowly hooks up into a disdainful smile, making such a big scene, but only opening a 3rd-level skill for me. Chapter 536. Aw, 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 a mournful roar resounds throughout the stone room. The 6 swords directly penetrate Guyu's body, but they don't stop. Instead, they tremble and ignite clusters of flames. It's precisely because of these raging flames that the originally unconscious Guyu lets out a painful wail. Lu Sei stares at this scene in shock, her face filled with horror. Mayan waves her hand, and the 6 swords fly out from Guyu's body, circling around her once again. Guyu, who was seemingly invincible just a moment ago, is now kneeling on the ground, unable to get up. Mayan's line of sight slowly turns to Lu Se, the corners of her mouth lightly lifting. Ghost King Lu, now, it's your turn. Lu Se suddenly comes back to her senses, a pair of eyes that look like they're about to pop out, unwaveringly glaring at Mayan. You're a Shin musician. You're really a Shin musician. There's no mistake. That zither just now was clearly the Three Realms treasure, the Tian Mo Chin. And that powerful zither attack just now that could even kill Guyu, there's nothing else besides a Shin musician's skill. Jun Mayan, she really is a Shin musician descendant. The Shin musician that the Three Realms feared and hunted down, that once made the Three Realms tremble with fear. Mayan's eyes slightly narrow, not saying anything. But in her heart, she's already made up her mind that she must kill Lu Se here. She clearly remembers what Bailey Yin Lu said. Before she becomes strong, her identity as a Shin musician must not be known to anyone. Otherwise, she's afraid that it would be a terrible disaster. However, just as she's about to activate the 7 swords, she suddenly feels a burning pain in her dantian. The meridians of her whole body become empty, as if all the energy has been sucked out in an instant. Immediately after, the 7 swords that were originally circling around her suddenly disappear without a trace. Mayan is dumbfounded, asking in her heart, what's going on? The Tian Mo Chin's hateful voice reaches her ears. What do you think is going on? With your current spiritual power, it's already a miracle that you can support the 7 swords to launch a wave of attacks. Now that your spiritual power has been exhausted, the 7 swords will naturally disappear. What kind of joke is this? Mayan simply wants to curse. This is a matter of life and death, and you're telling me that the 7 swords have lost their effectiveness. In the end, you gave me such a lousy skill. The Tian Mo Chin's voice is even more exasperated than her. You dare to despise this sage. Mu Yan is about to retort sarcastically. On the other side, Lu Se seemed to have noticed something. She laughed lowly. Your spiritual power, there is no way for you to use that powerful move just now. Ha 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 ha. Her low and deep laughter becomes coarse and unbridled. This is only natural. In the Yenwu continent, you can't absorb spiritual power, and you simply can't replenish the consumed spiritual power. That's why even I had no choice but to abandon my spiritual power and cultivate the more powerful devil chi instead. Shin musician, I didn't expect that I would be so lucky to meet a descendant of the Shin musicians in the Yenwu continent. I believe that as long as I bring your corpse back to the Shushin continent, Master will definitely forgive me and let me become the high and mighty immortal I once was. As if thinking of a beautiful future, Lu Se's entire face smiled with incomparable joy. However, her ugly appearance made her face look sinister and terrifying. She slowly pulled out a steel whip. Chapter 537. However, it wasn't bronze in color. Instead, it was pitch black and emitted a cold, fishy smell. Lu Se swung the whip towards the ground, and the steel whip immediately extended, splashing sparks on the ground. Mu Yan looked at the ground with an ugly expression. Because in the instant it swept across the floor, the bluestone in the room was corroded into a long and deep trench. It could even corrode limestone, let alone humans. Jun Mayan, as an insignificant mortal of the Yenwu continent, to die in my Tian Men's Lu Se's hands today is your greatest honor. As soon as he finished speaking, the steel whip immediately issued a popping sound and suddenly extended. It wriggles towards Mayan like a viper. Mayan wants to operate her internal force and spiritual power to resist, but she suddenly feels a burst of pain in her chi si and dantian. She clenches her teeth and forcibly activates the Tian Mo Chin. The sound of the zither lingered in the air, and a sound wall soared into the sky. Divine Hand's Weave was activated. The steel whip struck the sound wall and returned without success. But at the same time, Mu Yen, who had exhausted all of his spirit energy and profound qi, also swayed and almost fell down. Lu Se didn't give her any chance to catch her breath. The steel whip came back again. This time, the steel whips turned into countless whips in the air, falling down like a torrential rain. The sound barrier of divine hands weave was on the verge of collapsing under this unbridled attack, as if it would shatter at any moment. Mayan clenches her teeth. There's not a trace of blood on her face. Tian Mo Chin, can you hear my voice? She asks with her consciousness. Humph. What answered her was a disdainful snort. However, Mu Yan did not care about its attitude, and instead said in a low voice, if I can't hold on any longer, help me protect Xiao Bao's life. Humph, why should I? The Tian Mo Chin's voice hasn't yet fallen when the sound wall constructed by the divine hands weaving the heavens collapses with a loud bang. The earth-shattering whip shadows ruthlessly fall towards Mayan. It was as if the tip of his nose could already smell the rancid odor of the steel whip that had been soaked in blood and corpses for many years. Mu Yen closes her eyes in despair. However, the expected pain did not come. However, her body was suddenly pulled into a familiar and wide embrace. The hands that were hugging her tightly held her in his embrace, like a pair of iron pincers, not letting her have the slightest separation. But the body pressed against her was trembling slightly, a sign of how nervous and afraid the owner of the body was. Mu Yan's lips trembled slightly. He slowly raised his head and saw a familiar face. Di Mingju. Her hoarse voice is tinged with hope, with joy, and with a grievance that even she herself isn't aware of. The person who has come is Di Mingju, who has rushed over at the last moment. His eyes were slightly red as he looked at the girl in his arms, who was covered in cuts and bruises. For the first time, his indifferent face showed a mixture of heartache and regret. He had actually allowed his girl to be hurt like this. Even if his consciousness briefly returns to the polar domain in order to confirm that Mayan's identity as a Shin musician hasn't been discovered. Yen Yen, it's me. Before his hoarse voice could leave his mouth, he was pressed down by a slender blood-stained finger. Mayan struggles to get up from his embrace. A disdainful unwanted smile hooks up on her pale and bloodless little face. Shoo, Di Mingju, don't say that you didn't protect me well. I don't like to hear it. In the end, it blends between her and Di Mingju's lips and teeth, and disappears without a trace. Mu Yen, she used elixirs and drafts, but she couldn't get rid of the corpse poison. Di Mingju solved it with just a kiss. It was even more depressing. Who knew that a man's deep and low voice would reach her ears? Yen Yen, what you just said, does it mean that you're willing to marry Ben Jun? What did he just say? Mayan stares blankly for 3 seconds before she remembers what she just said. If you really want to be with me, then try to respect me and let me grow and become stronger on my own, until one day I can stand shoulder to shoulder with you. Wait, that's just an example. Chapter 539. Marriage, the wedding is on the agenda. What the hell? Who likes you and wants to marry you? Di Mingju, don't talk to yourself. I already said that it was just an analogy. Ah. The rest of the voice is once again blocked by a scorching kiss. When the kiss ends, Mayan ruthlessly punches the man's chest. Nyangqin, Nyangqin. At this time, she hears Xiao Bao's call again. Mayan is startled, and promptly releases Xiao Bao and the fat rabbit from the space. Just as she releases the control of the space, Xiao Bao's body rushes into Mayan's arms. The child, who has always been mature like a little adult, cries for the first time in a heartbreaking manner, choking with sobs. Nyangqin is bad. Boo hoo hoo, Nyangqin is bad. Xiao Bao hates Nyangqin. Boo hoo hoo. He's clearly saying those hateful words, but his little arms are tightly hugging Mayan's neck, not willing to let go for even a moment. The tears that didn't fall when she was in the most desperate situation, the tears that didn't fall when Di Mingju rushed over to save her by a hair's breadth. But at this moment, it bursts like a dam. Mayan tightly hugs her son's soft little body, her voice choking, Xiao Bao, I'm sorry, it's Nyangqin's fault, making you worry. Xiao Bao's head is tightly buried in the crook of her neck, his little body constantly twitching. Hot tears flow down her neck and onto her skin, scalding her whole heart to the point of aching. Mu Yan wants to lift her baby son's face, to see if his eyes are swollen from crying. But Xiao Bao hugs her neck and doesn't let go. For the first time, he willfully doesn't cooperate with Mayan's actions, doesn't listen to her words. Even if Di Mingju says from the side, how can a man cry at the slightest provocation? Normally, Xiao Bao would obediently let go of Mayan if he was provoked. But this time, it's as if he didn't hear it, refusing to lift his head. Mayan softly breathes out, her expression indescribably sour and soft. Suddenly, she lets out a low moan. This sound is like an order. Xiao Bao, who was originally unwilling to lift his head no matter what, suddenly raises it, revealing a pair of red eyes from crying and a small face covered in tears. Xiao Bao didn't care how disheveled he looked and asked anxiously, Mother, what's wrong? Mu Yan frowns slightly and gently wipes away the tears on Xiao Bao's face. She says softly, Nyangqin's injuries haven't healed yet, so it's a little painful. Xiao Bao will help Nyangqin apply the medicine, okay? Xiao Bao sniffled and said nothing. Although he was young, he was very smart. At this time, he already knew that this was Mayan's deliberate cry of pain. But when he sees the wound on his mother's back, his big blue eyes are once again filled with tears. He gritted his teeth and nodded, forcing himself not to let his tears fall. Mother, it hurts. Xiao Bao, help mother apply medicine. Mayan's heart feels like it's soaked in a hot honey pot, sour, soft, and sweet. She takes out the draft, and Xiao Bao immediately takes it, carefully pouring it on the wounds on Mayan's back and shoulders. The stimulation of the medicine entering the wound makes Mu Yan frown slightly and let out a low groan. She immediately hears a nervous voice, one big and one small, Nyangqin/Yan Yan, how are you? Does it hurt a lot? Xiao Bao moves his little head over, pouts his lips, and gently blows. Nyangqin doesn't hurt, Xiao Bao blows, it hurts so much that it flies. Mayan's gaze softens, as if it's about to melt. Chapter 540. Who would have thought that Xiao Bao would remember it all this time, given how young he was back then? Being able to obtain a treasure like Xiao Bao in this life, she had no regrets in her previous and current lives. Just as he was thinking, Xiao Bao's little head was suddenly pushed away by a big hand. Immediately after, a gentle kiss falls on her slowly healing wound, and the man's deep and husky voice reaches her ears, Yan Yan, it doesn't hurt, it'll be fine if your husband kisses you. Mu Yan, what kind of bad luck did she have in this life to actually meet this shameless guy? Xiao Bao angrily pushes Di Mingju away and hugs Mayan's neck. Nyangqin is Xiao Bao's. You're not allowed to snatch it. Di Mingju sneers, Jun Machin, do you want Ben Jun to use my strength to tell you who Mayan is? The big and the small stared at each other. Just as they were about to make a scene, the door of the stone chamber suddenly opened. Han Yi rushes in like he's flying, his mouth shouting, Miss Jun, what happened just now? You're fine, Jun, why are you here? With quick reflexes, Mu Yan shoves Xiao Bao and the rabbit back into the space. The black and white protectors also rushed in. Seeing the scene in front of them, they were also dumbfounded. Who are you people? How can you enter my ghost hall's holy land? Ghost King Lu. How did you get in here? As they spoke, their gazes turned and finally landed on the Ghost King's body, which was riddled with holes and covered in blood. The two of them rushed to the Ghost King like a whirlwind, their faces filled with anxiety. Ghost King. Demon King. What happened to you? However, when their hands touched the tip of Gu Yu's nose, they discovered that he wasn't breathing at all, and immediately became alarmed and angry. Who killed Ghost King? The black and white protector's eyes were bloodshot as they glared at everyone present. It was as if they wanted to kill someone. Bang! Suddenly, the ice wrapped around Lu Se shattered with a loud rumble. She fell to the ground, panting heavily. Mu Yan and Di Mingju's gazes are drawn over. Di Mingju slightly raises his eyebrows, as if he didn't expect that Lu Se would actually be able to break free from the ice. However, even though she managed to break free from the ice, she also paid a painful price. Her arms were severed at the shoulder and fell to the ground, turning into powder. But because of the cold, not much blood flowed out. But the despair and pain of her broken arm makes her eyes burn red, and she glares at Mayan and Di Mingju. It's them. Hee hee. They killed the Ghost King. Hee hee hee. I was worried about the Ghost King, so I came in to take a look. Hee hee hee. I saw them attacking the Ghost King, they didn't even let me off. Hee hee hee. While shivering, Lu Se gnashed her teeth and roared, Black and white protectors, quickly gather everyone in the Ghost Wind Valley, to these villains, kill without mercy. Hee hee hee. When the black and white protectors heard this, their eyes widened in anger. They don't even have the time to think about why Lu Se can appear in this stone room, they just roar and rush towards Mayan. However, Di Mingju is by Mayan's side, how could he allow anyone to hurt her? Black impermanence and white impermanence had gathered all of their profound chi to attack, but it seemed as if they had hit an invisible barrier. With a bang, he was directly bounced back. The two of them looked at each other, their faces bursting with hatred. Suddenly, the black impermanence let out a sharp whistle from the corner of his lips. Chapter 541. Mu Yan stands unsteadily, her body slanting to the side, but she suddenly bumps into Di Mingju's embrace. The man's warm and firm skin is tightly pressed against her through the thin fabric. A warm and moist breath enters her ear, carrying a lingering and ambiguous aura. The candlelight goes out because of this sudden change. When you can't see your own fingers in front of you, it always makes people flustered. But Mu Yan doesn't care about anything. That's because this shameless man beside her actually takes advantage of the moment when the light disappears, and directly kisses her lips. There's a rumbling sound, and the stone chamber finally stops falling. Jun Shang, are you and Miss June alright? Han Ye's concerned voice reaches her ears. Since you've killed the Ghost Lord, then all of you will be buried together with the Ghost Lord in this underground palace of the Ghost Hall. The black and white protectors' hysterical voices, filled with hatred, reverberate throughout the stone chamber. Then the light brightens, illuminating everyone's faces. Lu Se's pride and madness, the black and white protectors' hatred, the Ghost Lord's lifeless ash-gray complexion, and Han Ye's worry, every fine detail is revealed. Seeing that Mu Yan and Di Mingju are unharmed, Han Ye breathes a sigh of relief. But he suddenly asks strangely, Miss June, why is your face so red? Mu Yan doesn't answer, and she harshly bumps Di Mingju with her elbow. She purses her lips, which are still a little sore. She raises her hand, and the zither strings fly out. Before the black and white protectors and Lu Se could even react, the zither strings have already wrapped around the Ghost Lord, and with lightning speed, it drags him in front of Mu Yan. Ghost Lord, the black and white protectors bellow, wanting to rush over. Han Yi sneers, stepping forward and brandishing his sword. The two are immediately forced to retreat again and again. Almost at the same time, the stone chamber's door opens, and countless ghost envoys flock in, surrounding Mu Yan and the others. Did you see? These people deliberately sneaked into the Ghost Wind Valley to murder the Ghost Lord. Lu Se grits her teeth and roars, but her eyes flash with a sinister light. The one who killed the Ghost Lord is this fake doctor, Mu Yan. I didn't expect that I would be fooled by this vicious woman. This woman killed the Ghost Lord under the guise of treating his illness, and also wanted to silence me. Now, she doesn't even want to let the Ghost Lord's corpse go. Guardians, you must not let her off. Black Impermanence and White Impermanence coldly look at Mu Yan, and they shout in unison, "You'd better hurry up and return the Ghost Lord's corpse. I might be able to leave your corpse intact." However, Mu Yan did not care about their threats. She squatted down and looked at the Spirit King's corpse that was riddled with holes. She sighed and said, "TSK TSK, the dignified Spirit King has become someone else's puppet. It's really miserable. But Ghost King Lu, shouldn't you know better than anyone else how the Ghost King died?" Lu Se's complexion flashed, and then with a coarse and unpleasant voice, she angrily roared, "What nonsense are you talking about? It's obvious that you killed the Ghost King. The many wounds on his body are the best evidence." Ha! Mayan's smile is full of ridicule. "I don't dare to guarantee Ghost King Lu's other abilities, but when it comes to lying through your teeth, that is truly unparalleled." As she spoke, she looked at the black and white protectors. "You've been staying by the Ghost King's side all this time. Didn't you notice that there's something strange about his illness?" "What's strange?" Protector Black asked subconsciously. Chapter 542. Mayan slightly narrows her eyes, her expression unfathomable. Her sweet-sounding voice is clearly transmitted to everyone's ears. "The time you've been in contact with Ghost King Lu can't be considered short. You wouldn't tell me that you don't know that Ghost King Lu is most proficient in goo poisons, right?" The black and white protectors were shocked and they heard this, and they looked at the Ghost King's corpse together. Because the Ghost King was knocked down when he was attacking Mu Yan, the black nails that he had extended out had not yet retracted. It really looked like he had been poisoned. A trace of panic flashes across Lu Se's face, and she immediately shouts, "Jun Mayan, you have such a vicious method. You were the one who poisoned the Ghost King, rendering him unable to resist, and then you cruelly killed him. Now you want to frame me. Do you dare to say that the bloody holes on the Ghost King's body were not caused by you?" Mu Yan nodded without hesitation. "That's right, the injuries on the Ghost King's body were caused by me. He was controlled by you to attack me. Shouldn't I retaliate? Did you hear that?" Lu Se immediately looked towards the black and white protectors, and said loudly, "No matter what the Ghost King had experienced before, the person who killed the Ghost King was her, and it was also this bitch who harmed me to this state. What are you waiting for? Hurry up and get someone to tear them to pieces." The black and white protectors frowned tightly, and finally looked coldly at Mayan. "Since you admit that the fatal wound on the Ghost Lord's body was caused by you, that means that you killed the Ghost Lord. You must die." "Heh, fool." Mayan sneers, "The people around the Ghost Lord are all idiots like you. It's no wonder that he fell for someone's trick so easily." With a flick of her wrist, a dagger appeared in her hand, and before anyone could react, the dagger appeared in her hand. He raised his hand and the saber fell. The sharp saber and sword suddenly pierced through the body of the Ghost King. There was dead silence. Soon after, the eyes of the black and white protectors almost bulged out of their sockets, and they rushed towards Mu Yan like a madman. "Slut, you dare!" However, before their attacks can reach Mayan, suddenly, a silver light flashed. A silver needle pierced the Ghost King's heart and was then pulled out from the wound that the dagger had just made. Then, everyone saw a terrifying crimson bug struggling on the tip of the silver needle. A pair of cold inorganic compound eyes kept looking at everyone around him. His mouth opened and closed, and it was as if he could see the sticky flesh inside. Blurg. Some low-level ghost servants couldn't help but vomit as their stomachs churned. The black and white protector's attacks come to an abrupt halt, stopping less than a meter away from Mu Yen. What is this? The two of them asked in shock. Why would such a terrifying insect be taken out from the Ghost King's heart? Mayan disdainfully glances at them. This is the Three Corpses goo, a Three Corpses goo that has absorbed the Ghost King's blood essence. Just a little bit more and I'll become the king of all goo. Ghost King Lu, don't tell me that you don't recognize this thing. Lu Sei sneered, Jun Mayan, you don't need to frame me again and again. Even if the Ghost Lord has the Three Corpses goo, it's still your poison. What does it have to do with me? If I could use the Three Corpses goo on the Ghost King, how would I end up like this? Black and White Guardians, you must not be deceived by this sinister and ruthless woman. Chapter 543. It's really Lu Sei and Jun Mayan's argument that they're in the right. For a moment, they're unable to distinguish who the real murderer of the Ghost Lord is. TSK, Ghost King Lu, I can't help but admire you. You really won't shed a tear until you see the coffin. Mayan smiles as she gently shakes her head, her expression leisurely and charming. Then how about this? How about we let the Ghost Lord personally tell you who killed the Ghost Lord? As soon as her voice falls, there's already a bottle of draft in her hand, and she quickly pours it on the still struggling Three Corpses goo. When it comes into contact with the draft, the Three Corpses goo seems to be burning, and it suddenly makes a strange ear-piercing sound. Immediately after, its originally round body quickly becomes thinner, turning into a thick red liquid that drips onto the Ghost Lord's wound. This series of actions is like moving clouds and flowing water. Everyone watching stares blankly. Lu Sei's complexion suddenly pales, the blood in her body churning, her eyes filled with fear and resentment. The Three Corpses goo has been burned, how could the mother goo in her body not be affected? But in the end, she still manages to endure it, and hisses, Jun Mayan, don't talk nonsense and try to struggle on your deathbed. The Ghost Lord has already died, you killed him, how could he come back to life? Cough, 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 cough. Lu Sei still hasn't finished her words. The corpse lying on the ground suddenly lets out a heart-wrenching cough, and abruptly sits up from the ground. It's as if someone has pressed the pause button in the entire stone room. Everyone, including Han Yi, are dumbfounded. That's because the corpse that's sitting up is the Ghost Lord. The Ghost Lord actually came back to life. Under the illumination of the candlelight, the ash-black corpse-like complexion slowly turns weak and pale. The lifeless eyes slowly focus, finally falling on everyone in the stone room. Even in the quiet stone room, one can still hear his heavy breathing and muffled groans from his wound. Ghost Lord, you're still alive. After a long silence, the black and white protectors suddenly rush over, kneeling down beside the Ghost Lord. All the ghost envoys in the room seem to react now, and they all kneel down, paying respect to the Ghost Lord. Impossible. This is absolutely impossible. Suddenly, there's a scream of fear in the room, aren't you already dead? He should have died when he was corroded by the Three Corpse goo. Why are you still alive? How could you have survived? Lu Sei, who had lost both her hands, had a face full of fright. She shook her head with all her might, as if she had gone insane. Hearing this, the black and white protectors turned their heads and glared at her fiercely. The ghost envoys in the room also abruptly changed their positions, trapping her firmly in the middle. Lu Sei's words could be said to be a complete admission that she was the one who harmed the Ghost Lord. Guyu crawls up from the ground, but he doesn't pay any attention to Lu Sei. Instead, he looks at Mayan. Many thanks for saving my life, miss. Before he could finish speaking, Guyu's line of sight unconsciously stops on Di Mingju's face, and his body suddenly freezes. Jun Lord. He shrieked in disbelief. Then, before his brain could react, his knees had already softened and he knelt down with a thud. Guyu of the Heaven Division, under the command of the leader of the Wind Demon Army, pays his respects to the Lord. Lu Sei, who had fallen into a heavy encirclement, was originally thinking about how she could get out of her current predicament. Chapter 544. She has always known that the Ghost City used to be the property of the Polar Domain. She also knows that Han Yi and Ying Mei came from the Shushan continent, from the Polar Domain. Lu Sei had even guessed, who is this man that's so powerful that it makes her tremble at my inside? He's an elder of the Polar Domain, or a high-level official of the Polar Domain. But she never thought that Di Mingju would be that person. Even in the Shushan continent, he's a ruler that no one can reach. That man that even the sect master of the Tianyi men barely qualifies to be on an equal footing. How could Di Mingju be the sovereign of the Polar Domain? How could a supreme ruler of the Polar Domain appear in such a barren land like the Yanwu continent? But besides the Polar Domain sovereign, who else could Guyu call Jun Shang? Only at this moment does true despair and alarm rise from the bottom of Lu Sei's heart, making her body, which is no longer cold, feel as if it has fallen into an ice house, uncontrollably trembling. Opposing the sovereign of the Polar Domain, what kind of end will she fall into? On the other side, after Guyu receives the order to get up, he can't help but glance at Mayan. Soon after, he seems to think of something, and his eyes suddenly widen. Don't tell me, you are our Polar Domain's future mistress, Miss Jun Mayan? The corner of Mayan's mouth twitches. Who is your Polar Domain's future mistress? Don't casually claim relationships, alright? But before Mayan can refute, Han Yi is already boasting shamelessly on the side, laughing. Nonsense, apart from our madam, who else would have such superb medical skills to be able to bring you back from the gates of hell? I was still worried that if you really died, Guyu, how would I explain it to that guy Feng Sha when I return? I didn't expect that you'd become a corpse, but our madam's miraculous hands would actually bring you back to life. Saying that, he slaps Guyu's back. Idiot, what are you still standing there for? Still not greeting Miss June? Guyu abruptly comes back to his senses, and promptly bows and kneels. Greetings to Miss June, no, greetings to madam. Soon after, he looks at Di Mingju with adoration. When he first heard Han Yi say that Jun Shang had fallen in love with a mortal woman from Yanwu continent, Guyu still felt it was strange. He even thought that a mortal woman couldn't be a match for their wise and divine Jun Shang. But now, they know how good their Jun Shang's foresight is. He says with heartfelt gratitude, if it weren't for Jun Shang's discerning eyes being like a torch, choosing madam, this subordinate's life would have been lost in this Yanwu continent. Shut up. Mayan couldn't bear it any longer. Who's your wife? Di Mingju, aren't you going to control your subordinates? Di Mingju steps forward and grabs her waist. His voice is clear and cold as he carelessly says, Madam, you can wait until Mayan and I are married before you call me that. There's no hurry. Yes, my lord. Mu Yen. What the hell, no hurry. Di Mingju, can you be even more shameless? Seeing that Mu Yen has flown into a rage out of humiliation, Han Yi promptly says, Guyu, don't talk nonsense, hurry up and handle the matters of the Ghost City. You're really regressing the more you live. You were actually tormented to such a state by a mere King Yanluo. Hearing this, Guyu's expression abruptly became cold, and he slowly turned around to look at Lu Sei, his eyes bursting with a cold and fierce light. Chapter 545. After hiding under my hands for so many years, even I didn't realize that you were actually from the Shushan continent. I treated you as a loyal subordinate, trusted you, and delegated power to you. I didn't expect that you would actually repay me by placing the 3-corpse goo on me. You people of Tian men really have good moral conduct, good ability. Lu Se firmly clenches her teeth, but doesn't pay attention to Gu Yu's interrogation. Instead, he abruptly looks towards Di Mingju. Di Jun, do you know that this woman, Jun Mayan, is a god? Before she could finish her words, Di Mingju has already swung his palm high up in the air. With a loud bang, it was as if gunpowder had exploded on Lu Se's face. Immediately, half of her already pitted face was badly mutilated. No one knew what she wanted to say. They only thought that she was struggling on her deathbed. But Mu Yan suddenly turned his head to look at the man beside him, his expression uncertain. Of course, she knew that what Lu Se wanted to say just now was, she was a Shen musician. Then why did Di Mingju interrupt Lu Se? Could it be that Di Mingju already knows her identity as a Shen musician? No, impossible. Didn't they say that the people of the 3 realms wanted the Shen musicians dead? If Di Mingju knew about it, why wouldn't he catch her instead of helping her? Lu Se, it's already come to this, and you still want to splash dirty water on Miss June. Guyu obviously doesn't know what Lu Se wants to say, he just sneers and steps forward. Since you are my subordinate king of hell, then today I will personally end you. At this time, even Lu Se's lips and tongue are badly mutilated from the beating. She can't speak, but her eyes seem to be glued to Mayan. His eyes were filled with hatred and disbelief. Suddenly, she opened her bloody mouth and laughed. The laughter was rough and unpleasant. Hearing this laughter, Mu Yan suddenly had an ominous premonition. As if to verify his hunch, Di Mingju's complexion abruptly changes. He waves his hand in the air, and a frightening pressure and energy engulfs the entire stone house. The tables, chairs, and beds in the stone house all let out crackling sounds as they shattered one by one. Gu Yu's sword was sent out like a bolt of lightning. However, all of them were still a step too late. At that critical moment, Lu Se's body actually burned with a glaring flame. In just a short period of time, her body had been completely incinerated. Almost at the same time, a dark red light soared into the sky and disappeared from the stone room. This sudden turn of events caught everyone off guard. Han Ye's complexion turns pale inch by inch, his voice trembling as he mutters, "It's the sect-destroying exterminating sacrifice, Tian men's unique skill, sect-destroying exterminating sacrifice." He abruptly looks towards Di Mingju, his expression aghast. "Jun Shang, what should we do? She must have returned to Tian men." Sect annihilation was a unique skill of the Tian men. When one's life was in danger, one could return to the altar of the headquarters of the Tian men by burning the soul. However, even if he returned to the altar, he would only be able to survive for 2 to 4 hours at most. Moreover, after using sect annihilation, this person's soul would never be able to reincarnate and would suffer the pain of being torn apart by time and space. Therefore, whether it's Di Mingju or Han Yi, they didn't expect that Lu Se would actually stake it all on one throw, and use the sect annihilation extermination. In this way, Lu Se will undoubtedly die, but the secret of Mayan being a Shen musician will also be exposed in front of Tian men. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.